Hey, welcome to the Do Good Work podcast. Today we're talking to Linc Kroeger. Linc is the president of Night Moves, and he served on the Technology Association of Iowa board for 3 years. He was assigned by Governor Kim Reynolds to her Empower Rural Iowa task force and has been identified as, quote, the most innovative leader in bringing tech jobs to rural in the nation by U.S. Congressmember Ro Khanna, representing Silicon Valley, and has been also recognized as the top national rural influencer by the Ruralist and was the USDA Rural Prosperity Tour keynote speaker. And he is on a mission to create long term sustainable economic success of urban, underserved, Native American, and rural communities. Linc, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me today. Thank you.
Hey, Linc, I find it really fascinating the fact that you work to not only develop real solutions for real problems in the community, but you're also doing it at a local and community level. I'd love to learn a little bit more about, before we dive into that, learn a little bit more about what got you started and seeing that as an opportunity for your path.
Really, what got me started is just being in corporate America for 35 years
Hmm.
and just seeing companies just aren't positioned to solve society's problems of diversity and inclusion for entry level talent. They
Hmm.
really depend on the college system to do that. And there's a lot of push right now for apprenticeships and internship, especially apprenticeships, which I'm all a fan for apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Right? It's a great way. But what most people don't realize is apprenticeships really don't work for jobs that need a lot of skills before you can be a productive. And
Hmm.
I won't spend too much time on this, but why that's, when you look at, you need to solve a problem that somebody else is solving, right? Entrepreneurially. And apprenticeships are really popular. They were great for plumbers and HVAC, right? And jobs like that where, you can just come along and be a general laborer and helper and assister. And as you learn, you can apply more. And having probably around 100 4-year college graduates hired over my career,
Hmm.
even a 3-year college grad, a lot of time, or a 3-year college student in computer science isn't actually very helpful a lot of times to you because you bring them in and they can't just contribute, right? They need a lot of oversight. So the
Hmm.
problem is that companies, they're not worried about spending the $15 an hour for the labor for the apprentice. It's that senior talent it takes. They've got to pull them off their other work to dedicate to that person to make them,
It's lost productivity on the balance sheet, right?
yeah, for the senior people. So it's a really expensive proposition. So anyway, that's what motivated me is just seeing all of our push over, not all of them, 54 from when I
That's
got
still
into the,
young in my books. That's young in my books. I think
yeah,
once we push 85, then maybe we can consider that old. How's that?
but, when you start seeing over and over, year after year, people really earnestly striving for inclusion, but not succeeding, you go,
Hmm.
what's what's wrong here? We're just moving people between companies, versus how are we getting new talent in? So that was my big motivator to say, there's got to be something we can do here. And then I worked in an industry in software development consulting where my biggest competitor was offshoring. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, we've got this massive problem of people being left behind in our country. We've
Yeah.
got this insatiation hunger for cheap talent, but we're also a million to a million point four people short in this country because it's not all for cheap talent is why companies go offshore. There frankly just isn't the tech talent available in the country. Very
Interesting.
little there's very little being done to bring people into it. And I don't want to get labeled as like an anti-code camper, but I personally would not hire out of many code camps. So,
Hmm.
you have a 4-year degree up here, code camps down here. It's a good entry, but you think about you're absorbing everything you've ever learned about software development in 4 to 6 months. Very difficult to do. So that was a big answer to what got me motivated into this is okay, we got to solve the problem. And our focus is on urban, underserved, rural, and Native American communities, which are like the big demographics of left behind people in our country.
No, that's interesting. No, I love being able to hear you think and see around the trends that you want to solve because right now, let's just put it on our listeners' perspective. Right now, as you're listening to this, you might be saying, hey, there is an issue here. And I'm seeing these things at play over here on the left hand side and the right hand side. I see some other trends. There's some other issues. How do I connect the dots? How did you connect the dots? How did you start saying, if I start figuring these things out in this format or this sequence or testing my hypothesis, then I could begin something or create some sort of value. How did you connect the
Well,
dots initially?
yeah, and fortunately for me, I was working in the technology industry, right? Hiring lots of people. and not being able to hire enough four-year college grads because they just weren't available. So
Hmm.
my previous company, we had our own program that being in the consulting industry, and this is pre-COVID, right? You can't have college level graduates show up to a client site and charge them $125 an hour for somebody who
Yeah.
out of college, right? Because they go, I'm paying to train this person. They're pretty junior. We had our own uplifting program that when somebody came in, 'cause even with a four-year degree in computer science, you're not ready to be productive day one on the job, right? There's in fact, your science is usually under math, right? Department of Mathematics. Math doesn't change a lot. Computer science does. Like in our Night Moves program, if we interview a four-year computer science graduate and we say, how much of this did you learn in college? And they see the full list. They go, I think I heard of one of those, right?
Hmm.
They're like from continuous integration, continuous delivery, all these aspects of automated test harnesses. So all these aspects of secure code, they may be getting a lot of theory, but being a fully encompassed product is what we really have to deliver to companies to get them that when they start day one, that talent's just ready to be productive and rock and roll.
So it's a lot of internal development, bridge that gap. And then why go beyond with your company? It sounds like you had a really good system within your company. You were developing talent from within. Did you want to duplicate that model so others can model it as well in
Yes.
other companies?
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't finish that.
Yeah.
I just saw it working so effective. We created like our own program to uplift people. I'm like, geez, this is very replicatable. We could
Yeah.
do this and then start experimenting with people who've just had a small number of computer science classes, or maybe got their start with a free code camp, or we actually
Mhm.
had our own boot camp ourselves. We did that would be like 4 months long. And after that, then you could go into a longer program if you showed you could do it. But it just really showed you can learn the skills you need without having to go to college for 4 years, right?
Absolutely. And there's a lot of companies and a lot of business models that actually do that, except they charge for that kind of education, like the 4 to 6, not just the code boot camps, even for anything else outside of just software and development. If it's for sales, if it's for online digital marketing, but they do a pricing model on the front end, and then from there they evolve to the higher tiers. How did you create a curriculum around that, and how did you duplicate it to other? Did you sell it to other companies, or did you just want to give it to the community?
No, so we actually provide the training ourselves.
Oh wow.
So there's three phases to our training. The first is there's seven computer science courses you have to take, right? They would
Mm.
be base fundamental, like you would take it in any college. And we work to get students in that starting their junior year in high school. And that's because, and not to get into too many details, but the system works best across the country, starting their junior year to take classes. If you're interested, I'll parking lot that. We can come back to that. Now, once they complete that, and now that's either going to be via community college that teaches our courses that are local, which
Mhm.
are extraordinarily hard to find, by the way, a community college that can actually do that, or we can provide the courses ourselves, those foundation courses, those seven courses. Then when they complete that structure, our program is a very intense 6 months training program where the whole time all you're creating is real world solutions, right? So if you're in college and you write a software program for your instructor gets it, they grade it and throw it away. Great, it's good, but that's academic. Everything you create is for real users and goes into real production, but it's in support of nonprofit causes. So whether
Okay.
that's ending hunger or homelessness or helping women out of sex trafficking or disaster relief, right? There's a million great causes that need technology that we go in and innovate for and uses our projects for student learning. And then once you complete that phase of it after 6 months, and you don't complete it until you demonstrate you can do the job. So if it takes
Mhm.
you 6 months, takes me 8 months, great. And then you go from that to working directly for our clients that are buying our services or one of our partner services. And you spend 6 months doing like your first 6 months working for a commercial company.
Wow.
But here's the kicker is since we're focused on underserved communities, if you meet our criteria to come to our program, you don't pay for it until you get your job after graduating. And if you don't get the job, you don't pay for it. Now you have to meet our,
Really?
yeah. But our purpose here is to take people who don't have the money to go or don't have the means and to get them, because
That's cool.
we're going to have 100 companies lining up to hire our people, right?
Yeah.
Our companies that hire our graduates rate our graduates as the same as hiring a 4-year degree graduate who has 6 months experience on the job, right? So there's such a gap between us, a positive gap between us and a normal 4-year degree graduate. And companies want this talent and they really want diverse talent too, right? Because it's just so hard to find diverse talent that companies just line up to hire our people.
This is fascinating. You're solving so what the public sector can't solve with traditional schooling, you're solving in the private sector. And you're solving it through entrepreneurialism, through capitalism, through actually adding value and creating a business model out of it too. Because you also have your buyers, meaning the companies who are you're hiring your people, but then you also have a really strong offer will help you place you. And if you don't get placed, you don't pay. That's a pretty strong value proposition. What's your success rate or what's the student completion rate?
That is hard to answer, and I'll tell you why. I'm hoping it will be an easier answer soon. Is our biggest challenge right now is we built this on a foundation of the community college. So back to most across the country, most states, if a high school student is taking dual enrollment courses with community college, it's free to the student. When COVID hit, all of a sudden, this 1.4 million shortage of computer science workers, these recruiters went after the remote workers, these computer science instructors in the community college, and you go from making 65,000 to 80 to $100,000, right?
Yeah.
So I don't care what state I'm in. This is the biggest problem is they either don't have the curriculum, which is half the time, or they can't
Mhm.
get the instructor, right? What's happened is, let's say I go into a community of 1,400 people and 23 high schoolers sign up, right? And then they sign up, but community college, they're going, we really can't provide the instructor. So we'll just do videos or do some kind of online thing.
Yeah.
We'll get a 75% dropout rate in the first 3 weeks because high schoolers, big shocker to everybody, don't learn online and don't learn well with
Yeah.
videos.
No,
You know,
unfortunately. Yeah.
mid-career, very different, right? People our age, we can watch YouTube, we can do these things, right? Something's happened in us where we grew up and we just don't quit when we run into something hard, right? Or get distracted so easy from whoever's
Yeah.
next,
Yeah. What's that? Yeah.
all that. I forgot where I was going with that question, Raul. What was your question there?
Well, it was more of a statement that you're solving in a private enterprise solving for the gap in the public sector. And I just find that fascinating that you're doing this with your business model and it led to the fact of what are the success rates and the student
Yeah.
success rates there. But it sounds to me like it's a tougher puzzle to solve than it is just like an exact number. Here's what I can tell you. It's
Yeah.
based on demographic and age range.
Now, anybody who gets to our program, like through those 7 prerequisites, is going to get through it and complete because we've already, and when I said earlier, they have to meet our criteria. Part of it is they actually completed those 7 courses, right? And if
Yeah.
you can complete 7 computer science courses and we've had a relationship with you for a year or 2 years, we know who you are that you can get through our program. You're pretty well vetted. I'm going to throw another little curveball to you though, is it definitely capitalism. We want to be in an open market competing, having a better product and service than our competition. But we're set up really interestingly to where Night Moves is a social benefiting model. It was a C corporation, and I'll parking lot that on C corp. But the reason is it's the best tax model for what we do because we do not pay. There is no distributions or dividends to owners. Everything that we make from profit goes to pay for our social benefiting mission. So we're like, none of it distributes to owners. So we are open to investors. We look for investors, but just so you know, when you buy our stock, we don't pay dividends.
Interesting.
So people look and they go, well, why would I do that? It's to do good. It's
Yeah.
really create that model. Our purpose in this is to really show what happened if we want to obviously have $1 billion company, but
Yeah.
it's just going out. What if we took all that money and we put it back in society and ran it like a nonprofit, but run a business with
I
the
love
aspect
it.
being fully social benefiting? That's the model of this business. And frankly, with our clients, we don't have to pay sales commissions. We don't pay bonuses. So we can charge lower margins for our services. Because when you put in front of companies, hey, you're going to buy these services from somebody, it's $1 trillion annual industry for software development and computer science kind of consulting work. If you buy our services, here's our price. We open our books. You can see the margins. You can see where the money goes. And you're going to pay less because we don't have all this overhead, right? And nobody's
Yeah.
out going to chase you. And now we have this equity leader badge campaign where you can get all the public benefits. When we serve a community and we change a life, you can put your name on it and show what you're doing without donations, without doing anything different than just buying the services you were going to buy anyway.
It's incredible. So
It-
it's a huge differentiator, but and also it's fueling, we would call it the mission, but you're fueling that. You're fueling that the impact that you're doing through capitalism. And I'm fascinated by that. Based on like me with what we've seen with you mentioned COVID, what we're seeing now with different changes and needs in software development, what are some of the trends that you're adapting to or that you're trying to see in the horizon and either take advantage of it's in a positive way or that you're looking to and that are exciting for you?
things that are, I feel like we're ahead of the curve in most areas. I'd say for us, okay, so this is gonna shock some people, and maybe this is 20 years out, maybe it's 5 years out.
Yeah.
But like right now, there's about a 1 to 1.4 million shortage of computer science workers. Someday, now they've been saying this my whole career from when I started in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Software development's gonna go away. But if it does go away, it's gonna be replaced by something, and we will be there for whatever those skill sets are to pivot from software development to
The
Microsoft
thing
Dynamics
that makes
or
the yeah.
yeah, you still throughout history, whether it was the industrial revolution, automation eliminates jobs, but it creates jobs that pay better always.
Yeah.
So with that, we will be on that edge of coal going with us not burning coal. What are all of the technology uses? Like, for example, in drones, what do you call the substance in drones that makes the cases of batteries? It comes from coal. All these things that are green and renewable, that are these emerging areas, they're going to need skill sets, right?
Yeah.
Around them and apply to technology. Why not leverage all those dynamics and bring those I've spent a lot of time out in West Virginia visiting coal towns. Okay,
Yeah.
all people with multi generations of experience working with coal. Why not train those people for these new jobs that relate to that same kind of substance, just not being burnt but being used?
It's really interesting. So your core, I would say, if we're looking at Jim Collins's concept, the hedgehog concept, your core hedgehog is around not the product of software development, but on the actual process of developing talent fit for the needs of the economy at the time. Because in the future, yeah, there might be. I mean, we've probably read them too, McKinsey, World Economic Forum, like all these jobs are going to be lost and replaced. But also, it showed what I've read in my reports were that it's a positive net increase in jobs, even though there will be 800 million jobs replaced, but there's a positive net add at the end of the day. But it sounds to me like you're adapting to the function of providing services or providing the skill sets to meet those demands, regardless of what demands are.
Yeah, and in our industry, it's the polyglot mindset. I don't know if you ever heard that expression of a polyglot. You ever heard
No,
that?
I haven't. Nah, the mindset.
Poly is many glot languages. So it's
Yeah.
if you could have a Java developer, or a C sharp developer, or a Python developer, right, or React, pick your language, right? Language of the year. But a polyglot, their perspective is I need to understand the value of what I'm doing first, right? Why is
Mhm.
this technology valuable? And what's the best short and long term technology for it? And if I don't know it, I'll learn it and apply it,
Yeah.
right? That's the mentality. But most technologies don't have that viewpoint. But that's really what we're teaching people to do is teaching them that is what you do in technology is you're going to learn the rest of your life. And that and emotional intelligence are our two biggest focuses.
Yeah.
And then the skills are secondary. But like how to build an enterprise application is more important than how to write Java, right? How do you really build a scalable, secure, right, maintainable application? That's software craftsmanship, right? Anybody can teach Java because when our graduates leave and go to a company, our commitment to that company is the first week they're on their job, their team velocity will go up. And how you measure software development productivity, sort of productivity is probably one way to say it on teams is they have a velocity. And normally when you had a new person out of college, the team velocity actually drops because those senior people have to come on to help the new people. You lose some velocity for a while. We say, no, when we add a person, you're going to see an increased velocity
It's a
that
huge, yeah,
first
it's
week of
important.
joint, right? And so don't hire our graduates because you're making the world a better place. Hire them because they're the best talent. That's the competitive.
That's
I
the
mean,
key,
yeah.
yeah, but it's also the benefit of, "Oh, I'm also doing this on top," and it gives you that factor. That's fascinating. Link for our listeners out there was the best place for people to, 1, learn more about what you're up to, and to thank you for being on today.
Yeah, if you go to nightmoves.org, and it's night as in the chess piece, not as in the Bob Seger song. And there's video, there's all kinds of information. There's a contact out there to get a hold of us.
We'll put the link in the show notes, and Link, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. It's great.
If you found value in today's podcast, please consider sharing this with someone that you believe could also benefit from this episode. You never know, you may be the catalyst that opens them up to a new way of operating their business and experiencing life. As always, it's an honor to be a small part of your journey. This is Raul Hernandez. Do good work.